Hello, and welcome to the Super 70 Podcast, episode 25, Breathless. I will be using the Criterion channel for this podcast, but you can also find Breathless on Criterion DVD and Blu-ray. And you can find it on Vudu and Amazon Prime. If you hit the play button now, this podcast should sync with the rest of the film. If you are playing a streaming version, you'll be ahead for 2 or 3 seconds. There was before Breathless. And there was after Breathless. Jean-Luc Godard, Band of Outsiders, burst onto the film scene in 1960 with this jazzy, freeform, and sexy homage to American film genres that inspired him as a writer for Cahiers du Cinéma. With its lack of polish, surplus of attitude, anything-goes crime narrative, and effervescent young stars Jean-Paul Belmondo, Pierre Le Fou, and Jean Seberg, Bonjour Tristis. Breathless helped launch the French New Wave and ensured that cinema would never be the same. And joining me for the first time on the Super 70 podcast is my son Luke. Now, before we get heavy into it, I want to explain, while we watch Jean-Paul Belmondo rub his thumb over his lip, which he does a number of times in this film, you'll see, smoking his Gaulois cigarettes, which are almost twice as thick as normal cigarettes. And as he gets nervous with these people he's eyeing here, what Luke is doing here is he is watching Breathless for the
first time.
For the first time. So, why would I ask him to watch this for the first time? First of all, I have infinite confidence in my son's ability to analyze film just as good as I can. He's trained well after a lifetime of watching me do the same thing. He's got a unique perspective and constantly points things out and has an auditory recall that is far superior than mine. And I wanted him to watch Breathless with me instead of watching it beforehand. This is only my second time watching it, so I know what's going on, but this is very much in the strain of Godard. Godard was an experimentalist with film, and the things that he was doing in Breathless and in his career were far and away revolutionary for film construction, for filmmaking in general, like these jump cuts as a way to fast forward the narrative that you're seeing. And he was doing things so radically that people actually were confused sometimes when they watched Breathless. I don't think that anything will immediately jump out to you because we've seen 60 years of cinema since then. But at the time, it was really quite revolutionary filmmaking. However, I think that Godard would absolutely agree with a film analysis podcast with someone who's never seen it before. Because as this was his first film, he had never made a film before. He had made a couple of shorts. But I think he would absolutely agree with our immediate undertaking, right? What is Belmondo doing here? When he's looking into the camera, what is he doing?
Oh, he's breaking the fourth wall.
Right. Little odd.
I haven't seen that before.
Right.
Like this time.
Yeah, a little odd. I mean, this is supposed to be a narrative, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not watching Cuffs or Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Right? A little strange. I'll charge a kiss per mile. Right? So Jean-Paul Belmondo was one of the greatest, I could say sex stars of France in the 60s. He was seen as this ultra-masculine, almost like the Clint Eastwood of his day, you could say. He was
of France?
Of France, yes, absolutely. Oh, look, he just happens to find a gun in the glove box because France.
Who has that in France?
Yeah, exactly. So you see the first jump of faith is he's actually, now he is a criminal. He's going to go.
Did he just steal this car?
He did steal the car, yeah. He is on a crime spree, and he just happens to find out. It would have made more sense
if he bought it or stole it.
Bought it or stole it or already had it with him when the film started. That would have made more sense, right? So you're going to see a lot of things in Breathless that do not make sense at all.
Like
and
continuity-wise,
narrative-wise, storytelling-wise. And a lot of that is geared towards the fact that I'm not making this up. Godard sometimes would not write the scene until the morning they were shooting. And that included the dialogue.
Okay.
Even towards, it looked like there was somebody in the passenger seat there. Maybe that was just a coat that slid off the side.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not normally how you make movies, right?
It is not. No, normally you have a finished script. In the Hollywood style, you have a finished script before you even start shooting, before you do anything. And Godard was against this. And by the way,
against this, or was he just lazy?
Well, let me tell you something. I would not be surprised if laziness was an enormous part of that attitude. So he just shot this cop, and now he's running for his life. Mm-hmm. Would have been smarter if instead of running, he took the car he just stole. Well, right, but to Godard, it's like, you know what would be cool? Is if he ran across that field, and he made that decision that morning. And that's
also
why it
doesn't make sense. I didn't see the car in the back where he was running from.
Right.
There was trees, right?
So there was, yes, there was, but there was the car that he just stole was there. So
yeah, it was, and then you shot the guy and ran.
Exactly. So here he's back in Paris. Now, ostensibly, so what you're going to see as a theme for the rest of the movie is that Belmondo is going to try, as a criminal who's known throughout Paris, a lot of people owe him money. So he's going to try to call in all of the debts that is owed to him so he can skip town.
Okay.
No one's going to want to give him the money because his name is in the papers.
Yeah.
Because he just shot this cop. So that's kind of the plot for the film is I have to get out of Paris. And he's going to basically make all of these contacts to try to do this. This, I think, is a fascinating idea for a plot that someone else should have directed.
It's an okay idea. Well, at the time, I'm sure it was revolutionary. But, I mean, I've seen plenty of movies where it's like, this guy's stuck here. He has to get money to get out.
Right.
I've seen plenty of that.
I can't say that I remember anything with that type of line before Breathless, but there's been plenty since. Not to say that's an original idea, but it sounds like a plot point or a plot that I would be fascinated with. Godard, by the way, we'll get into how many of his movies I have watched in the last month because the Criterion channel has about 20 of them on there. And I think I've watched about 7 or 8 of them. He's got a fascination with legs and butts. They creep up.
He's French.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, there's a tolerance in France for much more than it is in America. But that's just something that I've noticed, particularly in Contempt with Brigitte Bardot. Okay. So I guarantee you things like this monkey, that was that morning. Like somebody bought that on the way to the set, or they found it on the set.
Yeah, I was looking at the whole when it showed up. I was looking at the whole time. Like, why is it there?
Yeah, they just decided to, or maybe that's just something that Belmondo just decided to pick up and run with. Now, the reason I read you that intro to Breathless, and I want to read you the first sentence again. This is on the back of the box of the Criterion Collection. There was before Breathless, and there was after Breathless. So that seems to divide cinema history.
Well, yeah, you can do that several times in cinema history. Like with specific movies, like landmark ones. You can divide it. It's like before and after, you know.
Such as?
Well, like Reservoir Dogs.
Ah, okay.
And you can make an argument for like Infinity War.
Oh, because of
how it ends and like where it leaves you and you know how big it is. And then This one, presumably, I haven't,
Or before Return to the King and after Return of the King.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah. Or what I was thinking immediately was before Citizen Kane and after Citizen Kane.
That's infinitely a better example.
But if you lived in the 40s, you might have said before the jazz singer and after the jazz singer.
Yeah.
Right. And this goes back to that documentary that I think you and I watched on HBO Max on Spielberg. And it was just called Spielberg. And it had an interview with Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy and a couple of other people. And they were talking about the first time they saw a fully computer-generated image of a dinosaur that was designed for Jurassic Park. And it looked so enormously realistic that they all were drop-jawed. And I think it was Kathleen Kennedy said, "I shit you not, it was the equivalent of sound."
Of sound and film? Okay.
Yes, right? And we shouldn't drop that by any means. And Breathless supposedly is one of these marks. And I spent most of the movie trying to figure out why.
Oh, you're not in that boat?
I am not in that boat, right?
Okay.
Not to say that there's not some cool stuff going on in Breathless, but I am not in that boat. Now that
I like this here in the
yeah,
streets,
no. So this walk and talk is what we call them in the film, right?
Yeah.
We just saw one in Mank. Remember the walk and talk?
Hearst Castle?
There's one around Hearst Castle, but there's one in Warner Brothers Studios.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It's supposed to be, or it might be Paramount, or it's supposed to be the MGM lot, is what it's supposed to be. But the MGM lot was destroyed by Amazon a year before they could shoot Mank. So I think they filmed it either Paramount or Warner Brothers. But it's a walk and talk with Lou B. Mayer.
I thought it was Warner Brothers, like they shot it at.
Well, when you and I went to Warner Brothers and Paramount, they apparently had shot at both. So I don't know where that specific walk and talk was shot, but it looked to be it looked like Warner Brothers.
one of the studios. Okay.
Yes. So that is why it's a walk and talk. So
they're turning back.
Now this is on one end of the Champs-Élysées, which is the main boulevard through the heart of Paris, which Germans have been marching through about every 30 years for a century. So in order to get this shot, and we're going to get to Jean Seberg, this wonderful lady on the left here, had this ultimately fascinating life that will bring you to tears. And she's a fantastic actress. But what they did not get a permit to get this shot.
I assume not.
Godard did not get a permit to do anything in any of his films.
Well, when he told me he wrote stuff on the fly, I assumed he didn't exactly get the permits to do that.
Right. Well, you have to submit your script to the film office in order to get a permit, right? And he didn't have a script. So other than this scene is going to take place here. So he's obviously after her because she's a girl and she has money because she has a job, unlike him, right? Now, so Raoul Cotillard was the photographer, and he was used to handheld stuff. There was no way Godard and Cotillard could go down to Champs-Élysées, which is probably the busiest street in all of Europe, and put a camera on two actors and run down the street and record. There's cops everywhere. There's just no way they could have done this. So what Cotillard did was he took the camera, and I'm not making this up, he put it in an ice cream cart.
Okay.
And then he got into the ice cream cart so he could operate the camera. And it had a roll door. Had a roll door on the top, and they closed the roll door so that you wouldn't hear the sound of the camera running.
Okay.
And it had a hole out the back. And so nobody on the street knew.
It was just this guy pushing a cart back and forth on a street for hours?
That's right. Well, not for hours because they did not have that much film. And we're going to get into that a little bit later.
Oh.
See, this guy just got hit. Now, they didn't have any stuntmen, right? So you don't actually see the impact, right? Which is smart editing. And then Godard Belmondo just calmly runs away.
Well, what happened to that? If they had no permits, did cops show up to that guy?
No.
Not on the... Okay.
No.
Right.
And they would roll it into whatever coffee shop or quarter store that they were operating out of, and they would pull Cotillard out of of the ice cream thing, and if they decided, okay, that was a good take, then they would just not go back, and if they needed another one, then they went back. But remember, they were trying to do everything on the cheap. The French government actually footed the bill for this, which is another story. Yeah, I know. We'll see if we can. I don't have time to get into that too, but there's a lot of things about this that are gonna blow your mind.
I gotta say, I'm not liking the tie at all.
Oh, the check.
Yeah, I hate it. How short it is. It's coming out of the blazer. I don't know what to make of it.
It's better than
sunglasses inside.
Godard was
and the bow tie.
Yeah. Well, it's. Remember, there was no budget for costumes, so this is probably their clothes. Right.
Okay. I was gonna blame the wardrobe guy, but remember, I can't do that.
But yeah, now you've seen Touch of Evil, which was the year before this. And
when was this made?
This was 1960.
Okay.
And Touch of Evil, I think, was 1959. It might have been 58. So you're familiar with dolly shots like this, only in this case there is no dolly. Like Orson Welles at least had money for a dolly.
Well, he's holding this.
Yeah, this is handheld. So Godard actually had served in French Indochina when it was a colony.
Okay.
In the French army as a signals operator. So he was a cameraman in the French army. That's where he picked up his skill. When he came back to Paris, he
in the early 50s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Early to mid 50s, because when was Dien Bien Phu? I think it was 58. So he would have been out a couple of years looking for work as a cinematographer in the French film industry. And here's Godard saying, yeah, I'll hire you. And they did several films together. They got along quite well.
New York TWA. See that?
Yeah. Trans World Airlines. Owned by?
Howard Hughes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm not going to say. And there is that little brochure on the side says Cunard Line, which is that's one of the competitors to the White Star Line, which ran the Titanic. The Cunard Line is a popular ship line. So here, this
these guys are looking for him.
Those are the guys. Yeah. If you those are two cops that are looking for him. And if you notice, they just came in the door. Then there's a quick cut, and they're
already there. Yeah,
right. And that's going to happen throughout the film. That confused a lot of people because if you remember, what did we watch like last week? North by Northwest.
Yeah.
Okay, so you remember when Cary Grant gets out of the cab in the beginning and goes in to meet these two friends he's going to have dinner with at a hotel
at Mount Rushmore.
No, in the beginning.
I remember that. Yeah, in the very beginning.
He gets out of the cab. He walks through the door. Then the camera, Hitchcock picks him up.
Yeah, and it takes forever for him to walk down the hallway.
Yes.
It's like 10, 15 seconds of him walking down the hallway. Yeah.
And he takes her right at the elevator. He goes down another damn hallway.
Why is it there?
Then he goes into the restaurant, and he's got to cross the damn restaurant and sit down with his... Godard doesn't do any of that. Godard's just going to jump to his next action. And this was a decision that he made in the editing room. And one of the reasons why is this was like a 2.5 hour film. Because we got to cut it down.
He cut an hour out of it?
Cut an hour out of it.
Just walking, huh?
Yeah, well, not just walking, but talking too. You're going to see...
Conversations cut off?
Right. Right. And jump cutting in the middle of conversations. Or feelings and attitudes in between the actors that are going to be cut short using this jump cut technique.
Then how is this so special? If like key elements are missing from the movie.
Right. Now, this is also the world of Jean-Paul Sartre.
I have no idea who that is.
Here we enter another...
let me guess. Is he on the other side?
An amazing shot of the Arc de Triomphe there. Over that Citroen.
How'd they do that in the middle of the street?
It really begs the question how. There's a lot of stuff in this film that really makes you think, now you'll love this.
Oh,
Yes.
What movie is that? Which Bogart movie?
You're the one who took French.
I don't remember anything from French.
See, man, that's weak, isn't it?
Okay, if it's this is after he died. So
yeah.
This would be a fairly recent one.
Yeah, but you see what Belmondo is doing.
I mean, he thinks he's Bogart
exactly.
in the extra movie, right?
Exactly.
Does he think he's what was that? High Sierra?
Yeah. You see, he does that thing with his lip again. All right, that's going to come into play later. If you can figure that out. So here's an iris close, right? If you can figure out what that thing means, dragging the thumb across the lip, you let me know.
What do you mean, like?
I mean, I really seriously don't know. And if you can figure it out, I want to know.
Oh, I think it's just like a character actor thing. Like, if he's... I think he thinks that's what the character would do. Like, if he thinks he's cool, like Bogart, he would do something distinctive.
Like an actor.
Like an act. Okay, remember in like Yojimbo in Sanjuro? Remember how Toshiro was always moving his shoulders up and down?
Oh.
He thought his character had like fleas or bugs, so he would move his shoulders up and down. It's never explained.
But that's just what he does.
But that's just what he does. I think that's just what he does.
Interesting. So watch the bathroom scene here. Godard, by the way, is not above putting. Yeah.
Judo chop.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, I was saying he's not above using homosexual innuendo.
There's a closet in the bathroom?
Well, yeah, if you could find one. Now, we'll take this moment to introduce Jean Seberg to you. This girl is from Indiana. And when she was 17, she, like a lot of girls in America, got on a bus and went to Los Angeles. And she wanted to be a movie star. And a director named Otto Preminger picked her out of thousands of girls and put her in this movie, which was Joan of Arc.
Oh, okay.
So she played Joan of Arc, so she cut her hair for Joan of Arc, and it proved so fashionable in 1958. Topper's trying to get comfy. It proved so fashionable that she kept it, and that haircut to this day is called a Seberg because of her.
Okay.
So Dolores O'Riordan.
Oh yeah,
or Seberg. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, as it happened, that movie, Joan of Arc, bombed enormously. But Preminger was not one of these people that you could intimidate. And
Did she just look at the camera?
Oh, possibly.
Okay.
Yeah. And if they had a bad take like that, they would just use it. Because why shoot it again? Because they're using the ice cream cart again.
This dude's doing a triple take back at the camera in the background. He looked at it 3 times.
Oh, and it could be that that lady is doing it too. See, they're all kind of turning.
Yeah.
So the camera might be exposed.
Yeah.
Right. And here's another thing is, you can't get into a back of an automobile with a camera because of the lens of the camera. It is too close to you. So if you watch anyone who does a professional film, where is the camera? It's like on the trunk.
Yeah.
Right? Even with no one's going to use a wide angle lens, but even with a normal lens, 35 millimeter lens or 16 millimeter lens, the camera's way back there. But they didn't have that at the time. They couldn't afford a follow truck. They couldn't afford a grips to build a frame for the back of the car. So they literally got in the back seat of the car with the camera and then shot it. So what do we have? The back of Seberg's head for the next 5 minutes.
Oh, it's definitely inventive. But
you see
this is the North by Northwest problem. Like, we're getting this continuous shot of the back of her head for no reason.
Well, but it's not continuous. There's jumps in it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just like that. So, but what he's doing is every time the car is slowing down,
he's skipping
he's cutting.
So it's the next action.
Right. Exactly. So I first saw this about 20 years ago on the IFC channel, the Independent Film Channel. And I saw it up to probably about 20 minutes after this. And I was just like, I'm out.
You thought it was really that boring?
Yeah, and we'll get to the scene where I jumped off the boat.
Oh, okay.
And we'll see if we can get you through it, too.
Oh no. Is it really that bad?
It just depends on your point of view. Now,
I like this.
Yeah. I mean, this is rather inventive, trying to remember another time in which somebody did something like this up an escalator. And they just walked in and did this. Now, Seberg, by the way, in the Joan of Arc, is, spoilers at the end of Joan of Arc. Guess what happens?
Does she die?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah,
okay.
They strap her to a
Cross?
Well, no, not a cross, but a pyre.
Stake?
Stake,
Okay.
and then they set her on fire. Well, so Preminger used real fire, and he accidentally burned her. So
They burned her at a stake?
Yes, they really burnt her at the stake inside a studio, and they were unable to put the fire out in time. So Seberg actually had burn scars on her body for the rest of her life.
Well, if you're going to get them, that's a cool way to get them. But that's horrible.
It's rather traumatizing for a 17-year-old girl, right? So, but Preminger, of course, was one of these people who said, I'm not going to accept that people think my movie is a bomb. And he did his next movie with her and made her the star. And that movie bombed too. So,
then why was she's so popular then?
Because of this movie. So,
okay.
but people knew who she was because Otto Preminger was an enormously famous director. So people went to go see Preminger's film just because they didn't like it. People knew who she was, but because it bombed, they just didn't particularly like her, even though they knew who she was. So she was pretty much unemployable after that. She had a contract with Preminger for another film, and he basically was dragging his feet because he didn't want to make it with her. So she asked to be released from the contract, and he did. He was like, oh, God, I finally got rid of her. And then she went around to the other studios looking for work, and of course they wouldn't hire her. So she went to Paris to look for work. And Godard hired her for this.
I really like the background. You know how much traffic that is?
That is another...
That was amazing. You could never get that.
That's
now.
Another thing that I found in a lot of Godard films. There's a lot of cafes. There's a lot of corner stores. There's a lot of coffee shops. There's a lot of bistros. There's a lot of hotels.
That's Paris.
Well, yes, but he likes shooting with glass in the background. Right, the camera's against the wall, and he's shooting out, so he's using the backdrop. Another dolly shot. No, we were talking about how economic...
there's the escalator.
Yeah, so that's the same escalator she went up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about how Godard was economical, and then Godard being kind of cheap. Well, Godard stole money out of the magazine that he worked for, the Petty Cash, so he could go to Cannes, where Francois Truffaut's movie The 400 Blows was gaining favor and winning awards. And a producer there gave Godard the money to start Breathless, as long as Truffaut was involved in the script. And Truffaut wasn't involved in the script nearly as much as he should have been, in my opinion.
Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, with the lamp lights on, right?
Oh, they turned on a second ago. They were off and then they turned on.
Right, because they're set to come on at a certain time. And there's another shot in the back that'll bring up another point, but I'm going to wait till that shot. Go ahead.
So she went into another car with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Are we following her now, or are we following... Who are we following here?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, I don't think Godard knows until they got into the editing room. But you can tell that he's fascinated.
We just left him on the side of the road.
That's right. And then you're going to know that you're not exactly sure where Belmondo is right now.
I have no idea where he is.
Right? Or what he's doing or what he's up to.
I guess he's still trying to find money.
Well, she walks in to get her key to her room, and her key is missing. So she's like, I don't know. Okay, so guess who's in her room?
Okay.
Belmondo. So how did he get there? We don't know. Because...
How does he... Okay, well, I'm not even going to ask.
Yeah, so, we don't know. We don't know how he knows where she lives. Or how did she get here? All of this is skipped, right?
Oh, she was Never mind. I don't even know.
Right. Now, this scene is about 20 minutes, and this is where I got off the boat. I could not stand being trapped in this apartment with these two people for 20 minutes.
This seriously goes on for 20
minutes? This is a 90-minute movie, and for 20 minutes, they're in this damn apartment. Now, you could say, it's Gene Seberg. How horrible is it to be trapped in a room for 20 minutes, Gene Seberg? That's not what my point is. There's very, very little going on with the story itself. And I thought this was a crime drama. Right.
Isn't it?
Well, it's supposed to be. Now, this is... Now, Belmondo had done some commercials and some stage acting, so he was a trained actor. And this whole idea of getting a script like right beforehand, that wasn't too much of a big deal to him. But to Seberg, this was like crazy because she was trained in Hollywood, where you got your script and you're sat on the set, you discussed everything and you ran through the motions. And you had a director on set, and Seberg would say, "Okay, Jean-Paul, what do I do now?" And Godard's like, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" That was
you never did that as a director,
right?
I heard it was like some director said it was like the one thing you never want to hear over here. You never want to say is "I don't know."
Yeah, you're supposed to know everything.
Yeah. Is that another teddy bear?
Imagine William Friedkin saying, "I don't know," or
on
Steven Spielberg. I don't know.
On The Exorcist.
Yeah,
is he saying "I don't know"?
My lord.
You are entirely right. I'm already bored.
In February of 1958, the film critic Pierre Billard, writing in Cinema 58 magazine, applied the term to young filmmakers, and he meant it sarcastically, quote, "The caution with which this new wave is following in the footsteps of its elders."
Here's the reason. Sorry. Here's the reason. They already like were together before. They just mentioned they were together before. That's how he knows where she is.
Yeah. Okay. So
that's how he knows where the apartment is.
Okay.
Okay. Continue.
Because they had a previous relationship.
Yeah, exactly. I answered your question.
Okay. So here was something that Americans weren't used to at the time. I mean, this was.
Oh, this is European movies. They did this with M.
Right.
So I'm not surprised.
Well, M they would particularly have a problem showing before 1934 because the Hays Code wasn't enforced yet. But European movies as a whole, yeah. Oh, Breathless is playing down at the Biograph. Let's go catch Breathless because it's a French film. There might be.
Does he have a 6-pack?
Not only does he have a 6-pack, there's obviously something else going on. Like his robe looks kind of like her shirt, right? Oh, I'm sure he did. Look, the dude is ripped.
I've never seen that in an actor before.
Sure.
And like in this time.
Before 1960, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you didn't see Kirk Douglas lifting weights, bodybuilding in Spartacus, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't look like he killed people in an arena for a living, is all I'm saying.
No, that's fair.
So, what is going on here?
Well, if you can figure that out, just let me know.
Is this whole movie just like me trying to figure out what's actually going on?
I think this 20 minutes is Godard trying to figure out his fascination with Gene Seberg. Why do I love her so much? He's deadly handsome, too. Oh, see, she just slapped him hard. So that was another thing that you didn't have in films back then. You didn't have women slap men. Men could rough women around all they want. But it didn't happen the other way.
I want to know where they're getting those jumbo cigarettes.
The Galois?
Yeah. I want to know. I want why didn't Bogart have those? He looked twice as big.
Yeah.
I'm just like, when those stop?
I think they had the Galois when I was there.
They still have them?
Yeah, well, I don't know to this day, but I think when I was there, they still had them. Yeah.
Do they still have like open, like when cafes can you like smoke anywhere still?
Well, when I was there, it was still permissible to smoke in most places in Europe. Yeah, but I mean that was around the turn of the century. Yeah,
all right.
And in China, I mean, forget it. Like there was no place you could not smoke.
They are hotboxing this room.
They're bogarting it.
They're bogarting this room. Look at all of the smoke. Are they just basically like? I don't even. They're just talking for 20 minutes. It's just like what you said.
Yeah. So because of the war, there was a ban on the fascist party of France, and then of course the Communist Party of France gains a foothold in post-war France. They've actually become quite dangerous in terms of their ability to assert power in France in the 40s, late 40s.
How does the communists wrap into the making the movie Breathless?
Follow me here. So because of the communist influence, not just in France, but in Italy and in other nations.
Which is still here after the war.
Yeah, but after the war, there was an enormous amount of communist influence in every country in Europe.
Okay.
Right? And in some countries like Poland, they took over. And there was a fear that they would take over in Germany, which they did in half of Germany, right? In East Germany. And they had a huge influence in Greece, a huge influence in Italy. So because of that, George Marshall and Harry Truman cooked up the Marshall Plan.
Yeah.
Which is that any European country can receive funds, right? Yeah. We'll send you money as long as
you do not
accept communism as your defining philosophy.
Government.
Right. So that led officials in France to pretty much drop communism. But it also led to a backlash of American money in French culture.
How do you mean backlash?
Well,
did the French just not like getting money?
Obviously the French don't particularly assign a whole lot of importance to money like Americans do. I mean, that's a cultural difference.
Well, yeah, but they just.
Right. But like for instance, before 1950, I think it was 1949. They had a 90-10 ratio of Hollywood films to French films in French cinemas. That meant that 90% of the films that you saw in French cinemas were Hollywood films.
I heard this before, yeah.
But after that...
They changed it and it had to be like 80-20 or something?
It was 70-30.
70-30.
Yeah. And so the big film that everybody wanted to see in the late 1940s in Europe was what?
In the late 40s?
Yeah, in the late 40s, the big film that everybody, because of the war, they didn't get any Hollywood films, right? Citizen Kane? Of course, okay. Right? So Citizen Kane comes to Paris for the grand opening in 1947. It was a bigger grand opening, a bigger premiere than the original one in Hollywood at the El Capitan Theater, right? The deep focus of Citizen Kane divides the French film community like a thick steak knife. What is this deep focus crap going on? Look at this painting in the background.
Oh, where everything's in...
Matisse.
Did people not like everything
Monet,
being in focus?
Manet is not in focus. Cézanne is not in focus. Goya is not in focus. Get this Hollywood crap out of France. See what I'm saying?
Smoke your cigarette backwards.
Citizen, smoking your cigarette backwards. Yeah, wearing your beret in the coffee shop with your stripes, with your goatee. Yeah, okay, exactly. Sounds like me, right? So Citizen Kane becomes this dividing lightning rod in the French film community. This representation of Hollywood culture that we do not want in France. This is funny. This is hysterical because the idea that Orson Welles has become a Hollywood establishment anywhere in the world,
and that's ludicrous,
isn't it?
They didn't give him money.
So immediately you have an upturning of what is actually going on. Welles went to France because
They liked him so much.
Well, Hollywood rejected him.
Yeah.
He had to get out after The Lady from Shanghai in 1948, right? 1947.
Yeah, they can see why.
So Godard has a choice. What do I do? Do I go with the Impressionists? Do I go with the film establishment of France? What does he do?
Well, considering he used deep focus.
Yes. He sides with Wells and he sides with Hollywood. And all throughout his films, you see Godard constantly
I think he
going
made the right
back
choice.
to Hollywood convention, which is strange because he is considered this guy who is so revolutionary. How can he be revolutionary?
If he's just copying.
Yes.
But he's only copying, like, the technical aspects. I don't see a scene like this in a Wells movie.
No, you're right. Well,
even in the Lady of Shanghai, which just has long parts of dialogue on like an island or something.
Well, I think you haven't seen The Trial yet with Anthony Perkins, and I
really,
I think that if you saw that, I think that's 1962, and he shot that behind the Iron Curtain. Like I think he shot it in.
Was it a Soviet movie?
No. I'm trying to. I think she shot in Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and check. It might have been Austria, but Austria was split at the time. Not by 1962. It might have been gone. Anyway, I'm getting off of the point. There's a scene in The Trial in which Anthony Perkins and these cops are running around this apartment, having an argument, and it's all one shot. And it's
how
actually,
long does the shot go on?
Oh, it's like half a reel. It's like 5-6 minutes.
Oh, like the beginning of Touch of Evil?
Yeah,
like really long?
It's like that long.
Right.
Yeah, and there's a play on words and there's puns and everything. And I mean, really, if Godard had done something like that,
a long shot in Paris,
and it would have saved him a lot of screen time in this specific scene, right? But that's not what he wanted to do. But there's also something existential going on with the jump cuts that are happening even in the apartment. Like I mentioned Jean-Paul Sartre earlier, the famous existentialist philosopher who wrote a book in the 40s during the war called Being and Nothingness. And he was the one who was positing of, yes, we're alone in the universe. Yes, there is no heaven.
Oh, quite a cheerful guy. Huh?
Religion is, but the whole point of what he was saying, it doesn't mean that we cannot find pleasure in our lives for the now. It doesn't mean that our life does not have meaning. People will still remember us after we're gone, longer if we're lucky. We can still have a good life, but there's just nothing after. So the theory was, we only remember the good things. We only remember the action. We don't remember all the times that we sat on the couch and did nothing. And Godard is kind of taking that existentialist idea about memory, and he's putting it onto film.
Oh, well,
using the jump cuts.
I completely disagree in every way.
Tell me more, McLovin.
Okay, like, the whole point is that he's cutting out the filler to highlight the important parts that he says you will remember, right? I forgot the last 15 minutes. And if you think I'm cherry picking here, before that, I don't remember what happened. I just forgot. Before this scene, I don't remember it. During this scene, I'm currently forgetting what happened. Because there is nothing interesting happening right now. The other parts of the movie they could have more interesting parts. But if your whole entire point is you're highlighting the important parts, I disagree.
Well, Godard had interesting ideas. He thought that to be a devoted cinephile was to be part of the cinema industry. And he also thought that the will to make a movie was just as important as really making one.
That sounds like something Scorsese would say.
As long as you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Just don't think about it too hard. Like have a plan. That's going overboard.
Yeah, that's going. You're doing a deep dive right now with this whole existentialism and film and whatever.
But he was a shady character. I was trying to get back to his poverty before. In the 40s and the 50s, he stole rare books from his family and his friends to support his cinema habit. He and Truffaut...
How do you mean support? Like, was he buying reels and watching them?
Oh, no. He would go to the cinema 10 hours a day.
Oh, like...
He would
round the
do
clock,
nothing
like
but
9 to 5, watch
yes.
movies. So like he's selling books and buying tickets to movies.
Truffaut told a story that he and another guy and Godard went on a Sunday, and it was like 10 a.m. and at 10 o'clock they had to leave because the last subway on the metro left at like 11 o'clock, right? So that was the last train. But Godard stayed to finish the movie, even though it got
Did he have to walk home?
Yes, across the city of Paris.
What is that, like 6-hour walk?
Well, I don't know where he lived and where the cinema was. I imagine cinemas were more frequent than they are now, just because.
That is a very valid point,
right?
Especially in France.
But if you got onto a subway, you're going pretty far. Belmondo got 50,000 francs to appear in this movie. Guess how much that was in American dollars?
Whoa, hold on. So in the beginning of the movie, he had 180 francs, right? That was enough to buy coffee. I'm considering that's not a lot. Okay. So if one cup of coffee, how much is a cup of coffee in like 1959? Okay, that's like what, 75 cents?
Oh, not even. It was maybe 5
50
cents. Maybe 5 cents.
5 cents?
Yeah. It was like a phone call. That was 5 cents.
$5,000.
5,000 francs?
$5,000.
So, okay. So 50,000 francs is
You're telling me you're asking me the conversion?
Yeah. How much was it in American dollars?
So you got paid
50,000
around 5,000.
Around 5,000 US dollars?
That's my guess.
100 US dollars.
I thought I was being generous. 100 US dollars?
Yeah. Not that it matters, but Jean Seberg's first husband was Francois Morivel, and he was a cousin of William Wyler.
Who's William Wyler?
He directed Ben-Hur.
Oh.
Yeah. So he was a French Jew who was from Alsace, and his family didn't survive. But he was also in he was in that group, with John Ford and John Huston.
Oh, those directors were just like
the five who came back.
The ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in that group. So, but he was the only one who was an expatriate who went back.
Who went back?
Well, like John Ford was originally born in Ireland, and his parents and his parents brought him to the United States, but he didn't remember really anything of Ireland. John Huston was born in the United States, and so were the others in the group. But William Wyler was born in France, and so he came to the United States. He remembered everything. He didn't immigrate to the United States until he was in his 20s. So he spoke Yiddish, and he spoke French, and he spoke English.
Okay.
Right. So he went back to France as a former French citizen, even though his citizenship had been stripped of him because he was a Jew during the Nazi occupation.
He went back?
During the war, yeah.
Oh,
to film as a cameraman.
It's interesting.
Yeah. To shoot documentaries.
For who?
For the U.S. Army.
So someone smuggled him into Vichy, France.
Oh no! He went with the invasion force.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right. All right. I got you.
And as they got closer and closer to Germany, he actually got into a Jeep with some people, and they went to his village in France, where he's from, in Alsace, and there was nothing left of the Jewish community, obviously, right? So he never saw any of his family ever again.
Don't we have like a similar blanket to that?
Yeah, I don't
like
know what color it is.
The one with the stripes? Isn't that it right there? No, that's not. No, it was close.
Godard won the Jean Vigo Prize, given to, quote, encourage an auteur of the future. Because in France, you can award people for what they do, not in the past.
But they do in the future?
Yes.
To give him an award for something he hasn't done yet?
That's right.
It's like Minority Report. What are they doing?
What do you think they're doing? Okay, so while they're doing that, I had to write this entire thing down because it was too much to remember, and I didn't want to miss a word. But I got this in that book, Everything is Cinema, by Godard, or by a guy who wrote a book on Godard. Breathless is the cornerstone film of the French New Wave because it is the one that explicitly claims the group's intellectual heritage, American movies, modern literature, a polemical yet highly rhetorical, critical style, while at the same time brandishing the group's hectic, threadbare, disreputable, social circumstances. Moreover, with Breathless, Godard achieved for the cinema himself and his movement what Sartre had accomplished in the late 1940s for philosophy, himself, and existentialism. He made his movement the emblem of the times, defined his medium as one of the moment, and personally became its exemplary figure. Godard instantly became the embodiment of cinema, the new wave, intellectual fashion, and intellectualism as fashion. Sartre carried a generation with him in the name of the philosophy with which he was personally identified, existentialism. Godard did the same for the cinema, his ideas about it, and himself. He not only depicted and enacted the struggles of his generation, he ignited its ambitions, turning it into a group that wanted nothing more than to make films and to make them as he did.
So that's just saying he's an auteur.
Pretty much.
Okay. So, isn't this man still wanted?
Yes. Good idea to leave the apartment, right?
Okay. So back to what you were saying.
Well, last year when Dave just pulling the punches.
Shadowboxing?
Yeah, exactly. Last year when Dave and I were putting together the season for the third decade on the Super 70 podcast, the second decade was a history of...
Yeah. I want to ask you about
that in a bit.
Okay.
Remind me.
We chose a movie from each decade of the last 100 years, starting with Battleship Potemkin.
Yeah.
In the teens, and not in the teens, in 1925, and I don't remember what I had for the 60s, but he said, why don't you do something?
Better be Butch Cassidy.
No, there's definitely not Butch Cassidy.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, remember it had to be foreign film because the third
it had to be
decade.
foreign?
The third decade is
Never
right.
mind.
Battleship
My
Potemkin, 49th Parallel, M, the Seventh Seal. We choose all foreign films, so that's the Louvre there. So he said, "Why don't you do something Russian for your first film? Something Eisenstein did, like Strike or October or Battleship Potemkin." And I chose Potemkin because that's the one he's most well known for. And why don't you do something from the French New Wave? And instantly I was like, oh yes, how could I have forgotten this? The French New Wave is so important in film. And if you look at films like The Graduate, like Mike Nichols must have watched Breathless 90 times to shoot
is The Graduate okay.
It's directly based on the French New Wave.
I have not seen it.
And well, I would say like
is it like Breathless?
Cinemagraphically, it's way better than Breathless. It's amazing.
Like in terms of like story, is it jump cutting around? Is it useless information?
He's not jump cutting around. He's not doing any existentialist crap like that. But there is like some deep thought going into it.
Okay.
And
is Dustin Hoffman carrying it though?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Okay, so the star power is there.
The star power is definitely there. Yeah. But it's kind of, if you could take everything that anyone had learned about the French New Wave and put it into one movie, it would be The Graduate.
Okay.
And I'd already covered The Graduate, so I said, oh, that'd be perfect. Yeah, I'll do a French New Wave movie. And he said, yeah, why don't you do Breathless? Because Dave likes Breathless. And I had never seen Breathless, or A Bout de Soufflé, as it's called in French, right? In which I jokingly refer to. It's what? It's about a soufflé? But, it's not. It's A Bout de Soufflé. So, anyway, I said, that's a really great idea. And then I watched it, and I was just...
You watched this?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the first time. I remember I watched half of it, right, up into that one scene in the apartment. Okay. I jumped off. So I'll actually sit through and watch it now. So I got it on the Criterion channel, and then I read that great intro, which is there's before Breathless
and after Breathless.
And there's after Breathless. And then I watched this. That's a Ford Thunderbird, by the way.
That is amazing.
It's a gorgeous car.
Who said that? Before and after?
That's what Criterion wrote on the back of the DVD. I know.
Okay.
Even Criterion can be wrong sometimes. This opened in Paris on March 16th, 1960 in 4 theaters.
So if you're out in the country, you're screwed.
And it made 50 times the investment.
Well, lucky him. He didn't spend... This is like nothing. He spent nothing on this. Putting in an ice cream cart.
Yeah.
Saved a lot of money on locations.
Seberg was panned in the press for previous films. Only Francois Truffaut, the famous film critic, who also turned into a director, kind of like Peter Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
Right? He liked her. He said she, quote, had a special quality of heartbreaking youth and beauty that somehow shone through her technically inadequate performance. Like, okay. I don't know if that's a compliment or that's a knock.
Okay. I think her performance, it's good, but I don't like it. I think it's good, but I don't like it.
I think that she was so, I don't know, we better save that till later. She had a very tragic life that we're going to get to probably at a later date if we have time.
I remembered, I was going to ask you, what's your next movie? Or is that like in the works and top secret?
I'll give you a hint at the end of the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Breathless was government financed and an industry board of reviewers.
Okay, if it was government financed, why would they not give him the permits?
Oh, you still have to apply for the permits, but from a separate body. You have to go to the city of Paris and say, I want to shoot a movie on this street corner. Can you give me a permit to do that?
So being financed does nothing?
This does nothing, no.
Okay.
Yeah. So an industry board of reviewers judged a script's quality for the funding. Tickets sold in France were going down. In 1957, there were 411 million. In 1958, there were 371 million. So if the film industry was going to survive, it needed to export its films like wine and cheese. So that was a very deliberate choice on the film board to choose directors they thought would make exemplary films so that they could export those films.
Was that controversial for the very diehard older?
I don't think
French
so.
people?
I don't think that it was kind of like for a while the British government was spending public money on publicizing their rock bands because they were making so much money off the Beatles. They said, well, if we can find other rock bands,
okay,
we'll promote the British invasion. They did a lot of, the Who got a lot of free advertising out of it.
Oh, that's nice.
Right?
What's going on here?
Oh, so she is works for the New York Herald Tribune. You saw it on her shirt.
I saw it in the window too.
And she's interviewing this film director who's talking about how he's this Casanova with women and I'm such a stud, and he's kind of flirting with her and she's flirting back.
I should be paying more attention because
It won't matter. You could start paying attention for the next 20 minutes.
Again,
and then
that could be a counter argument. It was like, oh, you didn't really watch the movie, so how could you fully experience the amazingness that is Breathless? You know what I mean? So.
After the shoot, Godard and Cotard spliced the film together so it could be processed in the laboratory. And they used a special developing bath for the effect.
Oh, why is this cop killer with this reporter interviewing a director with people here?
You would think that if you were a cop killer, the last thing you'd want to do is hang out with your American journalist girlfriend.
Bogart had a better plan than this, and that was to rob a bank to get out.
That was in High Sierra?
If I'm wrong, which I don't think I am.
No, I don't think so.
He should be. He should be
so
like
she
Shane.
breaks the fourth wall again, right? Like I just think that. I think Godard.
Did he take her car?
Yeah, he did. I think Godard seriously. I think he had a problem with women. Like he had.
In which way?
He had a problem getting together with women, where he was so nervous, like he couldn't ask them out on a date, or he was very nervous on dates. He had a problem being intimate with women, or taking a risk to be with a woman. And I think that in this circumstance, he had this extraordinarily beautiful woman on set, and he could not help himself but to photograph her in this super erotic way. I think that was his way of being intimate with a woman, because he couldn't find a way otherwise to do that, because he was such a nerd.
That's one word for it.
The dude stole books from his parents and sold them on the black market so he could spend all day in the cinema.
Well, it's not a bad use of a day. You know? I mean, you could find a better way to finance it, but
right.
I might do. I would do the same thing.
So the script supervisor came to the set.
Oh, you see the newspaper?
Yeah.
It said Eisenhower something in French.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The French were big fans of Eisenhower.
Oh, that's probably why he got front page.
Can you guess why the French were big fans of Eisenhower?
Oh, let me take a wild one. Is it maybe because
he liberated their country?
He liberated them? He walked on Normandy? But anyway, what were you saying?
There was a script supervisor on set, just like there was on every movie.
What script?
Well, they had a script of on this date we're going to film here. Oh, that's a schedule. But he did have like an order of scenes. He didn't know what
he just didn't write them.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So he actually kept the script supervisor off the set because he was like, she's bothering me. There was also a continuity girl. So continuity girls are famous. That's actually like a slang to them.
Fire the continuity girl?
Yeah, fire the continuity girl because, in these takes, like, Sean Connery's shirt is famously buttoned, unbuttoned, and that pot boiler speech he gives to Kevin Costner in The Untouchables. His shirt collar's open, closed. Like, how is that happening? And it's basically because the continuity girl was not paying attention, right? You're supposed to write down everything that's happening in between takes and in between scenes so that you have continuity between taking. I mean, if you look at Bruce Willis's tank top in Die Hard, whoever that continuity girl was deserves an Oscar.
Yeah, because how dirty it is.
Yeah, there is brilliant continuity. Mm-hmm. Now, however, Midnight Run, if you look at Jack Walsh's white shirt, it goes from white to pale to white to dirt brown to white. Like, fire the continuity girl, right? Which is a Hollywood joke.
What about...
But here, he got rid of her. He got rid of the continuity. I don't need you. What do I need you for? Send her home. He was indifferent to planning. And he was
indifferent.
He was indifferent to planning. Like, hey, why don't we do this tomorrow? And he's like, well, if I wake up tomorrow and I feel that, then that's what we'll do.
He did not fully close the door.
And if you leave the camera rolling, Why is the camera rolling? And here we are. We're still. So he's talking to that guy way down there on the street on the right-hand side.
Give it a hold out.
But why does that purpose have to be in the right 2 inches of the shot?
There is a purpose to it. Auteur. Boom. Gotcha. Checkmate.
No crowd control. So anytime they stop, had the camera, right?
Yeah, I could have figured that out.
Sometimes if they finished a shot early, he would just say, "Oh, we'll just take the rest of the day off." If you did that in Hollywood, you'd be fired. If say you finished a shot by 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., they would expect you to set up the next shot.
Yeah.
Even if that shot was planned for the following day. Godard would say, "Nah, we'll just take the rest of the day off."
I thought that was customary. Like, you just do that. That makes most sense.
Set up the next shot?
Yeah.
Well, the famous one is...
less work for you tomorrow.
Right. The famous situation is AI by Steven Spielberg. Right, which I know that you don't like, but the way that he shot that was really crazy. How he had four...
didn't he shoot it in continuity? Like, he shot it from start to finish.
He shot it in continuity, and he used... the kid. Because you're right. Because the big problem, it was a Stanley Kubrick project before. Before he took it over, Stanley Kubrick had passed away.
Yeah.
But Kubrick had admitted before he died that he couldn't shoot it because he said my last movie.
It was going to take like six months, right?
I think his last movie was over a year. And
was that Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut, and famously screwed up Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman's schedule. Like, they had to get out of other movies, and they had to cancel contracts, and they were liable for a lot of money, like millions of dollars. And some people were able to forgive him, and other people were not, and things got really nasty. And so he didn't want to do that, particularly over a year and 18-month period, because the child would age so fast that he just said, "Oh, I'm such a nutcase when it comes to acting. I can't do this." And Spielberg, of course, famously can work with any child. Like E.T. E.T. being a prime example of it, or even the kids that are in the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? You know, there's great. He's just great with kids. So he said, "Yeah, this is no problem. I'll shoot this damn thing in 6 weeks." Which to Kubrick was like, no movie can be shot in 6 weeks. It's no, I'm lucky I did Eyes Wide Shut in 2. Right? It should have taken 6 years, but. So he had 4 studio buildings at Universal that were basically across the street from one another in a 4-building block, and he set the scene up
shot and went
right.
Set
and
to
in
set
one,
to set to set.
Exactly. He just went from one to the other to the other. One was just CGI people that he hired so that they could start to work the minute the shot was done. It was just rows and rows of cardboard tables and desks with computers on them, so they could just start to work. And then Haley Joel Osment was done in one. He'd go and prep for the second one. And while that was being done, the set in the first one was being struck for the next scene. Mm-hmm. And then Spielberg would go to the third one. He'd shoot a movie with Jude Law, or shoot a scene with Jude Law. Yeah. And when that was done, he could go to the second one. Haley Joel Osment, we all had to be ready for that. The dude was shooting like 4 scenes in a day, which is
is amazing.
Yes.
Yes. Like, scenes are they can be very long. That's amazing.
And particularly in AI. I mean, there's a lot of like the sweeping shot in AI where the camera's upstairs and it comes downstairs through the, really complicated stuff.
You normally only get like 3-4 minutes a day, if that.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, 3 minutes of screen time a day is the golden rule. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So here the cops have come to the New York Herald Tribune.
Oh, you're trying to find them, of course.
Exactly. Do you know?
Because, let me guess how they caught on. Was he, interviewing someone with her?
Oh, yeah.
Was he perusing around town?
Possibly. I'm just amazing this was shot at all because, sometimes Godard would come to the set and everybody would be ready and he would just say things like, I'm inspired. I'm just not inspired right now. And they would just cancel shooting.
Inspired with what?
He would wait to be inspired before he would shoot.
Clearly, he didn't wait long enough to, write something good to be inspired by that. Is that his buddy in the back, or is that guy just staring at the camera again? Hey,
it could be that it was just a random person looking in the window and saw a camera and was like, "What's that?" Because there is no crowd control. Yeah, the first cut was 2.5 hours long. He didn't cut entire scenes. He cut all the non-action out. The editor said such cuts were generally considered to be a cardinal error of an amateurish film technique.
Okay.
So the editor who
when
put
did
this
this guy
together,
live? Well, when did the reviewer?
That was the editor of
The
this
editor.
film. Yes.
Okay.
He thought this was amateurish. And he put it together. But he did it under their...
Well, it's definitely unique, and I've never really seen it before for the whole movie to be cut like that. To shave down time. It's not that bad. I kind of like it, but like in terms of like, remember that part in the beginning with the car and they're both driving in? Like every other second they were cutting, and that just got annoying.
Right.
And like when you're looking at the back of her head for 6 different shots.
Yeah, and there's a cut like every 5 or 6 seconds.
5 or 6 seconds. Yeah,
these are longer.
Annoying.
These are longer.
Well, they're on the roof.
But well, you know why they're on the roof. You don't need a permit. And this is during a parade. So, I mean, they woke up.
He just wanted to get in
Exactly.
He just wanted a parade in there, man.
So this reminds me of that scene in Super 8. I don't know if you remember that, the J.J. Abrams movie.
I barely remember that movie.
Where the kid, we ought to watch it again. It's really good.
I remember I didn't like it.
And the kids were... They were
filming.
They're filming with the Super 8 camera on like a train station, and then a train starts coming.
Just comes up
and they're like, "Oh, perfect!
Let's get the train."
Yeah, let's get the train in the shot. Right now, all of this was dubbed. There's not a minute of live dialogue. The entire movie is.
Oh
dubbed.
yeah, I can't hear it. So.
Well, yeah, but see, Mr. Obvious Cop here. Going into...
Oh, is it a theater? Let me get...
Yeah,
is it
so
a theater?
Right. It's where you go to...
Hideout?
Escape. The theater.
I was thinking hide.
Yeah, hide. Yeah, sure, but I was thinking escape.
You're thinking escape. I was thinking Oswald.
Oh, yeah. Back and to the left. That's where Oswald was hiding in the theater. The Texas
Dames.
Theater. Yes.
No. On the wall.
Masseuse. So the jump cut, despite and because of its ill repute, became one of the principal figures of the visual style of Breathless.
Okay, that cut I did not like.
There's lots of the jump cuts that don't particularly make sense to me. Like he's chain smoking. He's literally lighting one with the butt of the other. Yeah. I used to do that when I smoked a lot, when I was in bars, when I chain smoked. So he comes out of the cinema looking for her. And then we're cutting to this. Where are they? Why are they there? Like, that's just
He's still
skipped.
supposed to be running from the... I'm still hooked on the part where... The beginning was really interesting. The first 5 minutes, I was in.
Because the cop was
like,
shot?
Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. That was cool. I liked that. Now, the rest of it, this is where it goes... This is like Roman Holiday.
How so?
They're going off together. One person is escaping to get to meet with someone to peruse around Paris. You know what I mean?
You know,
it's very loose, but like that's what I'm thinking.
I think that Godard would like that comparison. I think that if someone had compared his film to Roman Holiday,
okay,
I think he'd
well,
be
not
very
that
happy.
way, not that way. I'm just talking like very loosely
as film structure. Yeah,
as film structure. Yes, it's nothing compared to anything Audrey Hepburn's been in. But what is?
So he's got one more person. Like the whole movie has been going from person to person to person, trying to get all this money that's owed to him. Right? So I think there's one more left where he's trying to.
What happened to the? When was the last one?
He went to a hotel and the guy was like, "Sorry, I can't. I don't have any money on you," which we found out later was a lie.
Wasn't that before that 20-minute like?
No, it was after. Well, that was somewhere else. I think that was like a bookie that he went to that owed him money. Yeah. So here they are. This is the Plaza de Invalide on the right bank.
That's a quote.
It's a quote?
Yeah, it's a quote. Murderer, lovers, love.
Ah.
That's a quote right there. That's a high school yearbook one right there.
Some of it tries to be so hard-boiled, like, I gotta switch this car. And it's...
Like, come on, dude. You were interviewing someone in broad daylight at an airport. Same day.
Let's steal the Cadillac. So that was another thing that was kind of something like driving around in a T-Bird. Now he wants a Cadillac. There's just a lot of...
Let's be low profile. Get the Cadillac.
My God. There can't be too many Cadillacs rolling around Paris in 1960.
Oh. This is... I like... you can see him in the rearview. I like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't notice that before.
But, you know, the lighting doesn't do anything. It would have been cool if they lit up each person as they drove. Like, you could only see... Like, I forgot his name, but the guy... That would be cool if, like, while he was talking... Like, the light dimmed around everything else and just showed the rearview mirror. And then drove forward, and then everything dimmed, and then you could see the back of her head.
Right.
I thought that would be cool, but no permits. But, you know, armchair editor. Oh, that was the girl in the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
They found her in all of Paris?
just happened to be driving by her. So I think that we're closing in on the end here, and we missed a shot, which was him like leaning up against a Bollard in the Champs-Élysées right when the lights come on, and it's still like twilight hour in Paris. We saw a similar shot earlier, and I said I want to get back to that for the next shot we see, and that shot came and passed, and so it goes back to, and I may have mentioned this before on our recent trip about how Godard had told the cinematographer Cotard, look, we're going to be shooting in low-level light, and I don't want to use traditional film stock because you can't see deep focus in like this, right? You can see clearly across the street in low-level light.
Oh, this is what you're saying, that they bought like thousands of things of a specific film. Right. So they were looking for a specific film stock that Godard had used in the Signal Corps when he was in Indochina. Yes.
Right?
And low light stuff.
Right. So because that's all they use in the Army. Well, they went to all these stores in Paris looking for this stuff, and nobody had it. Only the Army had it.
Yeah.
But they found the exact same film was being used for still cameras. So on a still camera, you could get 12, 24, 36, and on a long reel of film, you could get 54. So Godard went to all of the film stores in Paris, and he bought up all of the low light still photography
that he could,
and then they went into a dark room and pulled them all out of the reels, which is, it protects it from light. And in the dark, they taped it together.
Yeah, I don't even want to imagine how long that took.
Just to make one reel of 10 minutes. And they did that over and over and over again until they had enough reels to shoot this movie on.
The original cut was 2.5 hours. I don't even want to imagine.
And the thing that gets me is the sprockets had to match. For
the connecting? To go on the
reel,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if that was, like, obviously it happened, but that's kind of, I don't know if the sprockets are even the same.
They did some MacGyver stuff to do it.
They had to make it work somehow. I guarantee you it's not universal. It's not as easy as that. It's just not. And so when they shot it, they would have to develop it in a very specific way. But I did the math of how much footage it did. Like, that's for a 90-minute film.
Oh, you did the math?
I did, and I unfortunately I don't have the numbers with me.
Oh.
But it's like 9,000 feet of film. It's 9,000 feet of film. It was under 10. Can you imagine stitching together 9,000 feet of film 54 frames at a time? and then running it through. Like, that's crazy.
What was that movie that I don't remember, but like it was like one of the great directors, like it was like something like Spielberg or like a Scorsese. They shot a movie and it was something like 10,000 feet of film or something like that. It was a ludicrous amount of film. I thought that was crazy.
Well,
14,000. You said 14,000?
This was 9,000 feet.
9,000. Oh, sorry. Still 9,000.
But that's, I mean, for a 90-minute film.
Individually.
But remember, this is like a 1-take and 2-take film. Like, he didn't do 5 takes, right? But
yeah, no.
it's like Clint Eastwood. And so Matt Damon.
The Annie Fincher.
Very recently, Matt Damon went on the Mark Maron podcast. We talked about this before, and he told an enormous amount of anecdotes, which was just fascinating. And he said that in his entire time with Clint Eastwood for the movie Invictus, they shot 18,000 feet of film in something like 6 weeks.
Oh, my God.
And he just thought, like, that was crazy. He said that Michael Mann was signed on to direct one of his films. And I can't remember which one it was, but it would shock you because they had a different director later. And he brought in Matt Damon for a screen test. And Michael Mann went through 8,000 feet of celluloid in 1 day.
Jesus Christ.
Screen testing Matt Damon for a movie. Yeah.
In a day.
In a day. And Eastwood used that in 6 weeks to make Invictus. And Godard uses half of that to make Breathless in the span of 3 weeks. And by the way, Magnolia... I know you haven't seen Magnolia, but Paul Thomas Anderson is generally you're a fan of. You kind of like Boogie Nights, and you really liked Road to Perdition. You liked.
I'm reevaluating my position. I kind of like Boogie Nights.
Okay, well, I hate it, but that's a different podcast. But the film Magnolia with Tom Cruise and Jason Robards. Have you seen it?
No.
No. Okay, so. I remember watching on the DVD, special edition DVD for Magnolia, they had the cinematographer who was at the taco truck, and the guy with the B-roll camera came up to him. This is like 2000, 2002. They're still using film, right? Maybe 2004. They're still using film. He runs up to the taco truck, and he's like, so, how's it going? Oh, yeah, it's going great, yeah. So what's the stressor today? Like, what's freaking everybody out? He's like, well, yeah. I think we're at $500,000. They're like $500,000, $500,000 Cokes for the crew, $500,000 eggs you got to make every day, $500,000 frogs you got to throw out of the sky. What's the big deal? What's $500,000 what? He's like, we're about 500,000 feet of film. Nobody goes through 500,000 feet of film. 500,000 feet of film? Like, you're kidding. That's 500,000 feet. Ben-Hur was not shot on 500,000 feet of film. I
don't think the war was shot on 500,000 feet of film.
That's insane. That's insane.
I think someone was making that shit up.
No, that cinematographer, at the taco truck, I can't remember his name. He was under a crushing amount of stress because they were going through so much film.
How much money?
It's an enormous amount of money.
I thought this 9,000 feet of film was crazy.
Yeah.
$500,000.
Yeah, that's the other end of the spectrum, right?
Okay. Clearly, I have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to length of film in a movie, but I know what is enough, and $500,000 is way
for a
over
3-hour film. You better have like a 24-hour film with 500,000 feet. I mean.
First cut is 36 hours.
Yeah, that's right. It's been done before. Andy Warhol made a 24-hour film.
What was it called?
I think it was called 24 Hours. I'm not joking. Yeah.
That's ironic.
He also made a movie called Penis, which is his boyfriend's penis going up and down.
Is it a short film?
So if you notice, this is a particularly good shot here, and this is the second apartment film. They're in hiding, obviously.
Yeah.
But you see, it's shot at disorienting angles in opposite directions, And
I wouldn't call it disorientating when this first scene.
Well,
started,
the whole
liked it.
film, like when they're driving in a car, they're going from screen left to screen right. Then they're walking when they get out of the car. They're going from screen right to screen left.
But
Like
this isn't. This is nice and slow, mostly.
Yeah, well, they're using a high angle here. Like I don't know if he's standing on a ladder or if there's like a balcony in this apartment. Like he grabbed her by the neck. Like that was kind of like, geez.
How many times have she changed outfits?
I don't think that he has. I think he's wearing the same shirt as.
Oh, sorry, she.
She's gone through at least 4.
At least 4?
Yeah, I think so. But it's always like striped. Remember, her shirt was striped, and it was a sweater.
I just want to see how many times she changes because, like, if she can beat Ferris Bueller of how many times she changes.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to.
So this is pretty cool, like following her around the world. So she became, because of this, she became a huge European star, right? She did a lot of European films, and Hollywood actually asked her back. And then she did a few westerns. And she, and then she did a few movies in Hollywood. She married a French guy, and they bought a house, and so she had a house in Beverly Hills, and she had a house in Paris. And so I think he was a French playwright or something. So she would go back and forth. In the meantime, she met one of Betty Shabazz's bodyguards. So Betty Shabazz was the wife of the widow of Malcolm X.
Yeah, Shabazz ringed a bell.
Yeah. So
when was this?
This is about 1966 or so.
This is
late 60s. So this is 6-7 years after Breathless.
And this is like what, 2 years before Malcolm X dies?
No, Malcolm X was assassinated in 1965. I remember.
5? Okay,
correctly.
after.
Yeah. So it's after he's dead. Yeah. And this guy was in the Black Panther Party. I cannot remember his name. So she met him and then started financing the Black Panther Party in Los Angeles.
Oh,
now
wow.
before we just jump off the ledge and start thinking she's giving them grenades and firearms, that's not what was going on. The Black Panthers in the 1960s, believe it or not, fed more poor kids than the U.S. government.
Yeah, they went over this in like Judas and the Black Messiah, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, the film with Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Great film. HBO Max. Watch it now. So yeah, I mean, she was given like checks of $5,000 to these people, and it was feeding all these kids. And apparently, she roped in a lot of her Hollywood friends to do this too.
Oh wow!
Right. So, but it was completely on the down low. Like you could not be seen financing the Black Panther Party. Like that was
at the time you could not have
right.
You could not have done
it was more respectful. Like if you ever see photographs of Martin Luther King's funeral, you will forget that it's Martin Luther King's funeral. You would think that like Elvis died in 1968. It looks like anyone who was anyone in Hollywood was at his funeral. Paul Newman and Robert Redford were at his funeral.
Wow.
It was Charlton Heston was at his funeral, who was a huge civil rights advocate in the 60s. Believe it or not. He's only turned into this right-wing fascist wacko in the last 20 years because he was head of the NRA, and Michael Moore has painted him as this person that Michael Moore wants you to believe him in.
I've never heard of that.
But in the 60s...
NRA?
Yeah, he was the head of the National Rifle Association for like 5 years or 6 years before he got sick. Charlton Heston was, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it makes sense that he's again. So here's, we're completely letting the movie go away. So
this is cool.
Yeah,
I love this.
So who turned him into the cops?
Her.
Yes.
I love that.
To quote High Fidelity, his effing girlfriend.
I love this. This is amazing.
Yeah, going down this side street. Why are we going down this side street? Because it's not a main street, so people can't stop us.
Yeah.
Like cops, right? And you see people are like, what is going on? Right?
Why is he
completely handheld.
Yeah.
And they had 4 different ideas for the ending. None of those ideas panned out. They did not decide. Godard did not decide what was going to happen in the end until this morning when they decided to shoot the ending.
Huh.
And then he drops. Look at that. That was an amazing drop. So despite the fact that she turned him in, she's upset. The last puff of the cigarette with the Galois. This is a famous ending to the scene. She pulls her hand away from her face. She comes to terms with what she's done. And he's basically like having like a joke with her at last.
Yeah, I remember that in the apartment scene, the 20-minute apartment scene.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And he's basically telling her it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. I didn't like you anyway. And he closes his own eyes. And of course, what is she going to do? You know what she's going to do.
Don't do it.
She's going to do it.
Don't.
See. The Buddha souffle, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with Luke and I while we watched Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless. You can find the Super 70 podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. But if you want to read my film reviews or blogs or buy my books, you can go to www.thatdylandavis.com. If you like the podcast, you can leave a review on iTunes, which apparently matters to everybody. And if you didn't like it, you can drop me a line at thatdylandavis@gmail.com. All music on the podcast was written and recorded by Rosalind McPhail. You can find her at rosalindmcphail.com. I'm Dylan Davis, and we'll meet next time on Hans Island.